Hello everyone and welcome to GeoTab's online training. Thanks for joining us today for Tuesday's talk. This is Carrie Carter, and today we are going to go through a short webinar on getting up and running with MyGeotab. This is part 1 of 2, so let's get going. All right, so this is basically what we're going to cover today. As I said, I'll split it up into 2. So we're going to go right from the login, from right when you get started, take a look at the product guide and how to load our vehicles, go through the live map and some of the things that we can find there, trip over into our history, and take a look at some users so that you can add some users and get them going. And then on to next week, we'll take a look at some other things that are definitely needed to get up and running, which would be things like groups and zones and rules, risk management, fuel data, all those kinds of things. That'll be for next week. Okay, so let's get started with the beginning. I've just received an email, a welcome email from my reseller that says, "Hi, welcome. I'm glad you joined us. I'm so glad that you've come on board here and you're going to start with the GeoTab product, and this is how you're going to get started up, and this is going to be your login and your database and all of those wonderful things." I'm going to start with my database, which would be called my.geotab.com, unless you have a specific different URL, and that would be noted somewhere. And I've got one called ABC_sample. Now, underscore, just so that you know, is actually a space when you create a database. And hopefully that database has been created for you. Usually databases have been created for you by your reseller, and therefore you don't have to. I know it does say it inside the install guide that when you get the device itself, but it's normally done for you. So make sure you touch base with your reseller first. All right, so I'm just going to press enter. And what you can see from here is it comes up to start with. It comes up with our end user license agreement, and it is there, and I need to accept it in order to get through. Just accept that. And what will happen here is it'll start out opening up my database. So down the left-hand side, I have a number of menu options. Across the top, I have a number of different buttons, and these buttons will change as I go into different areas. You have a little support button here. If you need some help, you can find out who your support person is or your support company is. This will tell you the database that you're in right now, which is ABC Sample, any notifications that are coming through from the database itself, and then here is my login information. Down the left-hand side is where our options are. Just make a comment here. Your product guide, it's about 90 pages, and it's not to say that you need to start off by reading the whole thing, because you don't. It is a great place to go and find out all the things that you can do. Okay, so you can roll through this and just take a look at it. We've got the different supported software browsers and vehicle configurations. I mean, I could roll through the 90 pages, but the whole point is it doesn't get into detail on how-tos, but it lets you know exactly what is going on with MyGeotab and gives you all kinds of insight there. So take a look through that as you can. You can start there by searching for something to see what's going on. Notice also at the top here, I have improved this guide, which means I can add something to it. And yes, we do look at all of those improvements. We have somebody on that all the time. And if you want to look at this the next time you log in, you can choose yes, or if you just want to choose the dashboard, and we'll take a look at that after. From there, I'm going to take a look right into our vehicles. If I go take a look inside vehicles, okay, I don't have any. I have no vehicles right here, so I need to add the devices that I have sitting on my desk. If they have not been populated for me, I can do it myself. Now, please keep in mind, sometimes you will have your reseller populate devices in for you, and sometimes not. So I'm going to show you how to create one yourself. If you have to add one, you already have a list of 20 and you need to add another one, you can do that. So I'm just going to choose the Add button, and I'm going to go and add a vehicle. This is how I start. So I just click on Add, and I type in, there's always a serial number right on the side of the device, right on the box, and that is the serial number inside the box. You also have 4 stickers that have the serial numbers on it. I do suggest that you make sure that you identify the vehicle that you're attaching this device to with a sticker so that you can cross-reference later and see which device is in which vehicle. So I'm just going to type a device serial number in. As I said, it's on the side of the box. It doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase. I just typed 0. Keep in mind, it is only zeros in the serial number. You will never find O's. Probably one of our biggest things that happens here is people say it's an invalid serial number, and it's usually an invalid serial number for that reason. Okay, there are 12 digits in your serial number. All right, so I can just type in here as a sample, and I can select OK. What happens is it's now created an actual vehicle, so my device is now in there. And from here, I'm just going to scroll through here so that you can see this, and we'll take a look at this in more detail as we go through. So my description that I just created, CC sample, it is a version 7, which is a Go 7. This is the serial number I typed in. The vehicle ID or your VIN will automatically come through. On late model vehicles, it normally comes through, and I can tell you if it doesn't, we want to know about it. Okay, so it will automatically populate once that device is plugged into the vehicle. It should populate, as I said, on late model vehicles, usually 2008 and newer, sometimes before, but we like to put a line at 2008 and newer. We are normally getting VINs on that. License plate is a manual population. You can put that in. That is needed for certain things like hours of service, but it's not needed for everything, so the choice is yours. Our odometer reading, again, on late model vehicles, we are normally getting odometer, so you do not need to populate that. Current engine hours. On light duty vehicles on 16-pin, or basically just the standard connection port that you use for 16-pin for any passenger vehicles, those engine hours will be exactly from the time that the device has been plugged in. If I just scroll through, I can put on any comments that I want to put on for this vehicle if I want to. It doesn't have to. And then, of course, the state and province, which again, this is used for certain qualifications here. I would suggest it's put in if you're using hours of service. All right. Okay, we do have some other options in here, which is the driver feedback in groups, and we'll take a look at that later. All I have to do at this point is hit save. Here's our vehicle. It has now been populated. And I can click on it and I go right back into that vehicle page. It's as simple as that. I've created it. Once it is installed into the vehicle, it will then populate the VIN and the odometer, and I'm good to go. Takes me right back to my vehicles. You can see those right here. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to flip over to another database so that you can see a sample of some vehicles that are already populated and being used. Okay, so here's some right here. I'll just make this a little bit bigger and you can see it again. So you have 6 devices here, 6 vehicles here. They've been named accordingly. I can follow them, I can click on them, and it will take me right into the vehicle. And from there I can actually go down and see, you can see this VIN right here. It was automatically populated because it is communicating. The license plate has been manually entered. The odometer is an automatic. It just read it. If it wasn't automatic here, meaning it was an older vehicle like a 2001 Honda, which I have one in there, it would actually say GPS. That's how it would show up right here. Okay, so using GPS, and this would be the mileage on it. So you do have options that if we don't get the odometer right from the vehicle, we can put the odometer reading on before you move the vehicle, and then it will add to it using GPS miles. All right, so let's take a look. We've added one vehicle. What if we want to add more than one? If we want to add 10 or 100? It can be a little bit tedious if you want to enter one at a time, but you don't have to. Okay, what I have done here, and I'm just going to pull up an Excel spreadsheet so that you can see it, is I have 6 other ones listed here for point of reference that we can try installing basically and add them into the vehicle list. The way I have it set up is I have repeated the serial number in both columns. And the reason for that is because I don't know which vehicle each device is going to go into. So I've really just duplicated it here. This is the serial number, and I'm putting this in as the actual description. This can change once it's been installed and I figure out which vehicle is actually installed in. All right, so if I flip back over to my list here and I choose add, I have an option here called quick import. So I'm just going to click on my quick import, and it does give me information here and tells me how to actually set up a quick import. So if I take a look at the example right here, I can use the dashes or not. You actually saw my sample without the dashes. And then the description. Now, I don't know what the description is because I don't know which device I'm putting into which vehicle. So I can just duplicate the serial number. So I just take this information from my spreadsheet and I copy it, and I'm going to paste it right inside this area right here. Again, it's just duplicated. I could actually type in, let me just look at this one, which would be just like this, and I can select possibly another one, which would be, if I know that these ones are going into those vehicles because I've already handed it to those people to install, then I can do it that way as well. And I just choose import, and now they're all there, automatically populated. So it's very simple to do a quick import. That list could be for 50, it could be for 500. I've done it for 1,000 before. It works quite easily. That's how you add one, it's how you add many. All right? Do I have any questions with that right now, just before we go any farther? Stephanie's on the line there. Steph, if you have any questions.
No, the only thing that was suggested is that when you're inside of a vehicle, like if you click on CC sample at the top, the little question mark there next to the editor at the very, very top gives you a lot of guidance on what to do with this page. Yes. That was the only recommendation.
Okay, excellent. All right, very, very good point. I was going to bring that up somewhere else, and it's fine. I'll do it right here. So if I click on this question mark, what you actually get is basically some guidance, as Stephanie said, some guidance as to what piece this is that you're looking at. The license plate, it should be, it's a manual edit as mentioned. The current odometer, if the engine data has the odometer included, it's automatic. And if it's not available, it's a GPS distance that comes from that value. It is very important that you would put the odometer in at the time of the reading when you install it, before the vehicle has been driven. Okay, but it gives you some great information just on that little question mark there. So use that, and that it cleans it up if you close it, opens it up, and it gives you all of the descriptions. Anything else there, Steph, if there was?
It just says if you only have access to a subgroup and do a quick import, the devices will be added to the top level company group that you will not be able to access. So you need to understand the group that you're in when you're doing an import.
Excellent. Okay, so really what happens there, and if we're starting right from the basics, we will understand groups by the end of next week, and that will really help with that. So if you don't have full access to the entire company, of course, installing the devices will only allow you to have access. And your group will only be allowed to have access to that vehicle. You should probably have complete access in order to do that, but again, you'll understand that better by the end of next week. Keep in mind, again, as we added vehicles, I just want to comment on this again. When you add a vehicle, make sure that you are not using O's. They are zeros, and they are 12 digits. It's probably one of the most common errors that we get. All right. So from there, let's take a look right now. We're just going to hop over to the live map. Again, another option off to the left-hand side here. If I choose map, I'm just going to zoom right out. As a standard, here's my map setting. Currently I'm in ABC Company, just so that you know. I have flipped from one database to the other. So I do have two running, and you can see them up here. This is the one that I'm in, and I do have some vehicles. They have been populated, they have been driving, so that you'll see them show up on the map. All right, so if I just take a look right now, and I have a list of vehicles, there are 6. And if I just take a look right now, and let's say I just wanted to populate all of them. So if I select all of them right now, what actually happens here is I can see all of these vehicles, and they are across the country, basically. And I can actually see that there's a number of vehicles here. Excuse me, I believe 5 of 6 of them are actually working, installed, and just a point here, I can actually see that one of them is not. So that would be a little clue here that I need to look at it. But the rest of them, and I can see them here, whether they're driving or whether they're stopped. 2 of them are actually driving right now, and 3 of them are stopped. So it shows me that information right there, what's going on. I can actually see on the map if they're driving, because they are a triangle. As I hover over the map, I can find out all kinds of information, how fast they're going, what street they're on, the time that it is. All right, let me just zoom over this way a little. And I'm just going to zoom in on the area of where most of them are. And I have the options here. As you can see, they do show up differently depending on where they are. Now, I have a triangle, which was driving, a star, which is actually inside what we call a known zone or a geofence. It is an identified area, a landmark that we want to identify as important. It could be a home zone, it could be a customer zone, could be a plant zone, any of those things. Okay, but we have identified it as a particular place that we want to remember. And then we also have squares, which just means that it's a vehicle that is stopped somewhere. Again, as I hover over it, it gives me all kinds of great information there. It tells me whether the vehicle is driving or stopped. And interestingly enough, it is now driving right as we're moving. So you can see it just changed from a square to a triangle. And is now telling me that it's driving 11 miles per hour on Glenwood School Drive. So again, I can see all kinds of great information here. Now on the left-hand side, I can see, as I said, if it's driving or if it's stopped. Now right now it's sorted by name. I can also change that to either sort it by driver if I have drivers going here, or I can sort it by status. I'm going to move it to status here so you can see that everything that was stopped has moved to the top, and if it's driving, it has moved downwards. If I flip it around, I now see all of my driving ones that are first. So you can see right here, as I zoom in again, this one right here is driving, and as I'm talking here through the map, you'll actually see this moving, and it will come up in another place along the map as it then reports again. You'll see it adjusted in its location. If we take a look at this live map, I have all of my vehicles showing up right now, but let's say I just wanted to see one of them. I want to show you something here that will be very useful to you as you go forward, because we'll get all kinds of things on the map, and we can end up with too many things on the map. So I'm just going to clear my map so it gets rid of all of the vehicles that are on there, and it cleans it up considerably. So if I take a look right now, again, zooming in and out on the map just so that you know is very simple. Just with your mouse scroll, I can go in or out. All right, if I want to take a look right now at a particular vehicle and I want to type in, I know it's called truck, but I'm not sure after that what else it might be called. So if I just take a look here, I can see that this is the one that I want to see. If I click on it right now, I can actually see that here it is right here. So it's stopped, it's inside a zone, and that's its location. If I look and say, you know what, that's not the vehicle that I want, I need to clear the map, so I'm going to switch that back out, and I'm going to try typing in a different vehicle, and this time I want to look at, because I know the vehicle name, but I have no idea where it's located. So if I just take a look right here, I can say this is the vehicle that I want. So I click on it, and here is my location. So it actually tells me across here that it's stopped. It's at the new office location, which is actually, again, a zone. It's an area that we have identified as important, okay? And it has been sitting here for 4 hours. So that's a basic idea of how to find a vehicle on the map. Now, what if I wanted to actually find, let's say, an address on the map? If I wanted to type in and say, okay, I need to figure out where this address is. I'm sitting here. I can figure it out right from here. So if I take a look at it and I say I want to see 1055, I can actually type in I'll call it a Google address. Google will try to find it based on the address I type in. More information I type in on the address, the better off I am. And it actually found it, and you could see that it was growing as it found it. So if I click on that right now, I can actually see it. Here it is right here. And not only did it show me where it is, but it actually told me as well, this is how far away this vehicle is from that location. Great way to do dispatch, because it actually shows you this is the address that you're at. Now, I only have one vehicle on my map right now, so that means I can only see where that vehicle is and how far it is away from that actual address. If I wanted to take a look at the other vehicles, and I'll just choose the ones that I know might be somewhere close, in this case, and I take a look at them and I say, okay, now I'm actually going to remove one of them from here. And I say, all right, well, let's take a look here. and find out. Now, if you remember, it automatically told me this one at 13 miles, but it also gives me the other ones. So as long as I've put an address on the map, it tells me which one's closer. Well, that works great for dispatch because now I know that this truck right here is the closest. So I could send him a message. I could ask him to call in when he has a minute. The next time I'm talking to him, I could ask him to go, please go to this location. You need to do a pickup for me, or you need to go service this, or whatever the case may be. All right, great way to do dispatch. So if I take a look at this, what other kinds of things can I do from here? Now, if I just, let's see, if I take a look at one vehicle, I'm going to clean up my map right now. Excellent opportunity. I have too many things on the map right now, so I'm going to clean it, get rid of everything that's there. All right, so if I take a look right now at this Honda Accord, it is a 2001. That is the vehicle that I said I know is too old. So if I actually looked at the content of what's inside the vehicle information, that VIN would have to be manually loaded as well as the odometer, but it keeps a great track of it. Once that has been loaded, it will hold on to the VIN and it will increase the odometer as it runs. All right, so this is the location of where it is right now, and as I hover over it, you can actually see some of the information that's there. It has stopped and when it arrived and the time and what the address is of where it is right now. Now, if I left click on it, that's all it is a quick left click. I have all kinds of information here as well. I can edit the device, which will take me into that vehicle edit page that I've shown you already. I can go into the trip, which we're going to take a look at in a second. Other things I can do, I can assign a driver to that trip, to that vehicle. That driver happens to be driving this vehicle today, so I want to assign it so I could run reports maybe by driver. I could also find an address. If I wasn't sitting right on top of this vehicle right here and I just clicked anywhere on the map, I could actually find the address of that particular location as well. I can show the street view, which would take me out to a Google Street View. I don't need to go there. I think we all know what that is. I can actually add zones right from here, which again, we'll go into that next week to add just some basic geofences or identified landmarks that we want to keep track of. I can take a look at the road speed detail. Excellent way to find out what that road speed is on that road. We look at two mapping systems, OpenStreetMaps as well as Navtech, both of them excellent mapping systems. OpenStreetMaps we use in order to allow you as the user or anyone that actually works, with the mapping, that you can actually update that posted road speed, because not all of the road speeds are perfect. Some of them are estimated. And if you're in an area that you have estimated road speeds and know that road speed needs to be corrected, you can do that. Okay, so road speed detail, update the posted road speed. What actually happens when you update it? It becomes part of your database. We do our checks on it to make sure it's correct. It becomes part of your database. It becomes part of all of the GeoTab databases. And then it goes to OpenStreetMaps at the end of the month. They do their checks, and it will roll out usually about a 3-month period. It will actually roll out into everyone's mapping system. And I mean, it's now part of OpenStreetMaps. So anyone that uses OpenStreetMaps could then have that posted road speed as well. Great way to do it. And then the other option down at the bottom is nearest. I showed you a nearest where you could actually see it tells you it was 13 miles away, or if it was 10 miles away, whatever the case may be. You can also do it right from here, because you can find out what the nearest vehicle is to this one or to a spot on the map. 2 different ways of doing it. It will get you to the same place. Inside your LIDE maps, some of the other things that I like to look at from here is, let's say that I'm looking at this vehicle and it's sitting in this location, but now I need to see how it got there. Often we'll get calls, or you as an end user might get a call and says, you know what, I had a problem with the guy 3 days ago. I got a call, it's a complaint. I need to figure out what his trip was, how fast he was going, because they said he was speeding in a 20 zone, and I just want to know what happened. So you got to go back through it and figure it out. Or they're claiming that it took them an hour and a half to get somewhere, and you actually want to see what their trip was to get there. That idea. So I can go and show the trip. What it will do is it will actually take me, and I'm just going to zoom out here so you can see a little bit more information. All right, you can actually see the trip as to how they got to that location. Zooming in a little, and I can see how they got up to that location. Now, if I look down the left-hand side, I can see that these are all of the points that they went to on that day. Now, in actual fact, I'm on August the 10th, which is yesterday. I had been in here earlier, and you can see these arrows that are going both ways. I can go through different dates just by moving through the map. Now, if I take a look at today's date, I can see that they've only made 3 stops. So I'm going to go backwards so that I can see yesterday's stops. Okay, this was a bit of a longer haul, so I can actually see that the only location that it's showing me right now is how they got to here. I want to see their whole day. I got asked this question yesterday. How do I see their whole day without clicking on each thing? If I just click on the top, meaning the blue bar, it will actually populate the entire day, tell me the entire trip, and give me all of the stop locations. Okay, another point of reference. A stop, we identify a trip or a stop as anything over 200 seconds. The reason for that, stoplights are normally less than 3 minutes, so we're not running into stoplights and making them different trips. Okay, so that's our identifier. All right, so we have 7 stops. The top one is always our overnight stop, so you can actually see from one date to the next. That would be our overnight stop. I'm just zooming in a little bit. All right, it also gives us more information, but it's a little bit more difficult to see. Now we have a little arrow right here. I'm just going to go through this arrow quickly so that you can see the difference here. If I left click on it, I lose all of the information on the trip. However, what it just did was it changed. If I click again, it shows me only the information on the trips. And if I click one more time, it takes me back to that I can see half and half, really is what it's done here. So I can still see my screen. There it is right there. I can see my trip, and I can see lots of information here as well. Now, it tells me where it started and where it went to next. Now, keep in mind here that these are stop locations. Each line is a stop location. My actual trip goes from this location to this one. So from 1 to 2 is the trip. It tells me that my trip time was from 12:43, meaning just after 12 o'clock, and it comes through. All right, so my trip from 12:43 to 13:03, which takes just after lunch, and it stopped right here at this zone. So my trip time was about just over 20 minutes, or just about 20 minutes. So I can actually see, but keep in mind that you have to hover over that to see that trip time, because these are stop times. I bring that up because it's very common, and people go, well, how did you do that time frame? I know it was longer than that. That's the stop time. It was just a 4-minute stop, but my trip that took me to that location is as I hover over it. Okay, I was stopped for 3 minutes and 37 seconds. Okay, there was no idling. It would show me right here if there was any trip idling. The driving time that existed to get there, 19 minutes and 48 seconds. How many miles it was. And then this little arrow right here will actually allow me to do some more information with the vehicle. If I just click on that, it will actually take me in, allow me to go back and see my vehicle screen. Remember my vehicle edit, it will take me in there, so I can click and get to it from there. Another place I can assign my driver, meaning if there was a driver that did this trip and I need to assign the driver to it, I can do that. I can show a speed profile. So again, if I got a call in from somebody and that somebody said that that I saw your truck driving down the street and it was speeding right past my house, I can actually get a speed profile and take a look at what that trip looked like. Okay, find out how fast they were going, or whether they were above the speed limit in certain areas. And then I can actually go in, and we won't do it now, but I can go in and find out all kinds of log data on any particular vehicle. That drives in a day, there's anywhere between 1,000 and 5,000 data points that we can actually log. We're very data rich in that. And this is something that you could go into to take a look at all of your log data that happened in that day. All right, so right from here I get all kinds of rich information. I can basically figure out my day. If I'm looking at productivity, I'm on the map. It's it right here. I'm just going to comment on this again, this little arrow right here. If I click on it once, it makes it very small, so I get only a little bit of information here, but allows me to see more of my map. If I click again, it gets rid of all of the trip information, and it just shows me the map. If I click it one more time, it just shows me the trip information, and now I have lots of information here and a little bit of space to go look at. All right, if I click it one more time, it splits it in half. Great way to be able to look at productivity, and it allows you to see what's happening with each vehicle. I was just speaking with someone not long ago that basically said they took their, I'll say their time cards, but they took their timing and the hours that they are paying down by 10 hours per driver, just based on looking at this, because they can actually see the trip history when they started their vehicle, when they finished at the end of the day, and they can actually go through it with the trip history, and now it makes sense to them. So it shaved off a lot of extra cash that was going out the door. Great for productivity to see that. All right, what you can also see here, and as I zoom in, this is a little bit more of a longer trip, but as I zoom in, I can actually see exactly where they're going. As I follow along the trip, I can see how fast they were going. And if I move along here, I can see the road that they're on. I'll zoom in a little bit more here. There we go. All right, so if I take a look up here, I can actually see, because I zoomed out, that I have stop number 5 and 6 are right here, and stop number 4 and 7 are right here. So it's not going to try and put too much on the map all at once. It will kind of bring it together. And as I zoom back in on those certain areas, I will then start seeing those stops broken out. So now I can see stop 5 and 6, but it's not until I zoom in on the area. So it's just a nice little package. It will show you. You can actually see exactly what happened in this loop, how they went around probably in a parking lot before they came back out. Sometimes it's just to turn around because a large truck can't do it any other way. All right, so it's a great way to be able to just take a look and see exactly what that vehicle did. I can see that they went both ways on this street. So they went up, they came back down, looped around here, and then went back over the river and up this way. Okay, now I can also see here that there was a little bit of a GPS latch, and I want you to be aware that, yes, that can happen. I know that they're out in the country right here, so that can happen when you're right out there. That's not anything to do with our devices. In that case, it's probably the cell coverage, because there's not too many cell towers that are out there, and sometimes they do drop. And then I can see again, this is stop number 4 and 7. So inside my trip history, great information. I can basically cover everything that I need to know about a vehicle. I can flip through days just by moving along with my arrows here. Again, if it's something like somebody called in and said that they need to find out this particular drive from a week ago, I can flip through it this way, and I can actually get to that day, and then I can populate the map just by clicking on the top. Now, keep in mind, I did mention before, one of your best friends here is Clear Map. Because I have a trip on here right now from August the 10th, I'm going to clear the map, and then I'm going to say, all right, show me this particular trip. If I click on it, I can see that this was the trip. And it was from August the 5th. Very easy way to look at each day. And all I did was just trip through it right here. Now, if it's a particular day from 3 months ago, I'm going to go clear the map again. I can actually go into my options right here and see that I can actually set up a custom date. Now, we haven't been into options yet. Just to show you this, options are something that show up in many places in MyGeotab. Options are where you can clarify or qualify exactly what you want to report on or look at on your screen. If I was to take a look at a particular day, I can just type it in. It comes up with a nice little calendar, and I can say I needed to see July 1st. And I only want to see July 1st, so I'm just going to go from and to, both on July the 1st. And I'm just going to apply the changes, and it will say, oops, I had no activity on July the 1st. Simple enough. Okay, it was not that driver. That vehicle did not go there, so that wasn't the correct one. Easy answer. Again, I can flip through it easily this way. If I want to go through and see, This vehicle obviously wasn't used for a little bit of time here. There we go. And now it's back in use again. So as I flip through it, you can actually see this vehicle was not in use until July 23rd again. So obviously it was not being used, and it sat on the lot. All right, so here I have my options. I can qualify what I'm looking for, apply the changes, and it will take me through and show me right on the map my trip history and all of the stops that were made for that time frame. All right, what I also have here is one other option that's right here that I wanted to talk about, which is the summary tab. Let's say I don't really need that detail. I just want to take a look at the summary of what went on for that day. Now I can also look at it for a week or for a month, but it will give me some identification just in a summary format that it did 65 miles. It went 2 hours and 40 minutes and 58 seconds of driving, the idle time that was spent, okay? And then if I hover over here, you can actually see whether I had customer time or non-customer time that was happening. All right, so a very simple way to take a look at some summary information. I only have it set up right now for one vehicle. I could actually have all of them set up here as well. That choice doesn't matter, but you can see again, take note, these buttons have changed again. So depending on what you're inside your MyGeotab, those buttons will change. All right, one other comment here that I want to make is notice how I no longer have my actual full menu. It has just become the icons. In order to get those icons back, I just click on that little button there and it takes me back to my full menu. To get to my trip history, I look at the map. I can go to trip history and it will take me right to the last place I was on the trip history. So I can go into my options. I can say I want to see for today, and it will take me into today, and it will ask me what driver I want to see for today or what vehicle I want to see. Well, okay, so I want to see this vehicle. All the information I need to see about that vehicle is right there. Very simple to be able to go through, and you can find out all the information that you need on that vehicle for that day. If I click on it, it takes me and it shows me the trip that it actually went to on that day until, or on this day, until the time right now, which is where I'm sitting right here. We've gone through some basics on this. We've gone through the mapping and the vehicles, which are probably the most important thing. We've talked about getting started, what our screen looks like, and how our options may change across the top depending on where we are. Now what we're going to take a look at is a little bit more of an administration side of things, and we're going to take a look at the users. Users, obviously, you being the first one that I will say that is installed, or you are the first one that has access to the database, you have been set up already. However, your preferences may not be the way you want them. You may want to change some things. So I'm going to take a look at the users right here. It's inside administration and users. And if I take a look at my users right here, I have a number of different users. I'm just going to take a look at mine, and I can do a search here. And if we just type in my name, it will show up. This is the one that I want to take a look at. And I have all of the information about myself. Now, it would be something that would be set up, as I said, by the first person that enters into the database. You already have access to it. I'm going to take a look at the options right here so that you can see some of the other things that are important. Now, our measurement system, obviously, US metric is the other option. As far as our miles per gallon or liters per 100 kilometers, kilometers per liter, however you want to look at it, or MPG for imperial, or MPG for US. So I've left it at US, but those are the options. That's where you come in. So it's inside your users and inside options. The time zone that you're set for, or excuse me, the time format that you're set for, and then the time zone that you go into. I want to comment on this for a minute because it tends to get a little bit confusing. If I click on this time zone, I have a number of them. And if you aren't quite sure where you're going to find the one you're looking for, you can always type in your time zone just by typing in EST, it's Eastern Standard Time. If I type in CST, it would take me to that one, PST, whatever the case may be, it will actually come out right there. So I can just grab that one and I'm all set. The language that I want, we have English, French, Spanish, Japanese, as well as Dutch. There are always more coming. We are all over the world, so pick the one that you want, and you're good to go from there. Now, the default map type that you want, you have either Google Maps or OpenStreetMaps. The choice is yours, whichever one you desire to work with. I'll switch over to OpenStreetMaps, and you can see that. Something else I want to comment on here is that you can set up your own view. Now, in setting up your own view, we do it from the map, and I'll walk you through this in a second on the other database. And you can actually see that you can set up a default view for yourself so that every time you go into your database, it's going to be exactly the way you want to see it. You don't have to look at the West GTA or Atlanta or the entire map of the USA. I set it up for myself. You can't set it up for anyone else. You have to do it for yourself. So you would set it up and make it part of your default just by moving it up. And then our default setup page, and I'm going to take you through and create a new user so that you can actually see it right inside your a new database. All right, so I'm just going to save this. These are the changes I've made for myself. I'm going to flip over to the other database here, and you can see these ones right here. And if I go inside administration, I select users, and I'm going to create a new user, and that is right here. I'm going to select add, and in this case, I'm going to type in now, just to let you know, it does not have to be an email address. Drivers do not have to have email addresses. However, if you do want them to receive any reports, they will need an email address. Okay, otherwise you can just type in a username. I have John Smith in as one. He is not an email address, and that works too. All right. Type in the password. Now, just so that you know, we do not store passwords here. That is something that obviously for security purposes we do not. We do suggest that when you create new passwords for people, you do force that password change on the next login. They will just follow a link and then they will get their own login and it will be totally secure. All right, security clearance. Now, security clearance is something that we can go into in much more detail, but I will let you know that security clearance, because we can have such large databases and we can have them set up for different areas of your work, meaning that it might be dispatch, it might be support, it may be the person sitting on the front desk that's trying to figure out what's going in and out, whatever the case may be, they all may have different security clearances because one set of people may need just the dispatch stuff and someone else may need only the reporting information. So you can have them all set up differently. And you can also have it set so that you can have data access to certain things. Now, I'll make the comment here. We'll talk about groups more next week, but things like if you're only looking at the Eastern region, you only want to see the Eastern region, and that manager should only see the Eastern region, then that would be the data access that they have available. Now, the other three portions here are all just, if you want to enter them, you can. Those are manual entries. All right, so right now this security clearance is what I want to focus on. And if I look at the security clearance here, he is set as a default user. Default users do not have full access to everything. And we'll go into the clearances in a minute so you can see some different clearance levels, but these are by default what we have available. Administrator has full access. Default user has probably 3/4. GeoTab Drive user has just the GeoTab Drive, which is our hours of service solution, just has access for what GeoTab Drive users need, meaning a driver. Nothing means they have absolutely no access to it. They cannot get on to MyGeotab. Supervisors will have some, and view only means you can look at the entire thing, but you can't change anything. So you can't go in and change your vehicles, and you can't change the users or any of those things, but you can go in and look, or rules or anything else. So by default, these are the clearances that we have set. I'm going to set this person as an administrator. All right, and I just rolled back up again, but I do want to make a comment here. Everybody does this at least once, sometimes twice. Please use the save button. If you don't save it, you will not keep what you just did. Because when we scroll, that save button disappears, sometimes it gets forgotten. Make sure you roll back up and you choose save. So I've just added this particular user, and just by clicking on it, I can go back in. Now, the options that I have set, see these options button right here is where I took you to a second ago. Inside the options button, notice right now that it is set to US Imperial, the MPGs are US, and all of my formats, my time zones and everything else are all set based on what the user was that I created this one with. Okay, so make sure that you set yourself up the way you want to be first, and then you can create the other users. All right, something down here I talked about before. If I take a look right now my map settings for the default are just set for world. That doesn't give me a whole lot of options here. If when I go into the map, I'm actually set up, and you'll see it here as I click on it, I can see the whole world. Well, I don't want to see the whole world. If my location is somewhere around, I'm just going to say right here, and I want to have it set, there we go. I want to zoom in and say this is the area that I actually always want to look at every time I come in. If I just click on site map right now, and then I take a look and see views. So if I click on my views, I actually want to save this view because for my database, for my work, this is the area that I want to do it. Now you can be a company that's across the nation, but remember, each user can set up their own view, and they need to do that once they log in. Okay, so I save this view, and when I save it, I can just type it in as, I'll just call it default view so we can find it in a second, and I choose add, and now I have set it up so that when I come in, I will automatically be set here. Now there's another portion to this that I need to do. I have it designed. I'm going to go back into my administration, into my users, and inside this user right here that I'm in and I have selected, in my options, and if I come down here, there's my default view right here. I am the user as Carrie Carter. Keep in mind that this is my user right here. I can only change the view for myself. This is the view that I just created. And if I want to make that my default view, I'm just simply going to move it up. And now it's become the top spot. By creating it as the top spot, it will now always default to that spot. Another option inside my UI setting, right now I'm set at the product guide. I don't want to be there. I want to be set up so that my map always shows. And I want my map to show because I work basically on the map and I want to look at productivity first. So as I log into my MyGeotab and I see it, I want to see the map first. All right, does that make sense? With that, I just select save, and now I am all set. So I've now created a user. I have adjusted my user options. And I can create, as I said, I can create a user. I can create multiple users. If you do have a need to create multiple users, there is a bulk import option that will allow you to bring in 50 users, 100 users, however many you want set. And you can do it all at once just with a basic Excel file that you have set up. So that option is there as well. All right. Okay, so I think I've walked you through the first part, if you will. I've taken you through to a point where I think you can play with it, get used to it. Hopefully you've picked up some pointers if you've seen it before. And from here, next week, we'll take a look at some of the other things that we need to really get up and running. Things like groups, zones, rules and exceptions, risk management. We'll look at some fuel data, reporting, and some dashboard basics. So that's what we have for next week. We're going to go at a little faster pace to really get us rolling there. And I think from there you'll be able to get going and then look at some of the other detailed things. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, one more time.
By the bulk option to import several users, are you referring to a software feature or the SDK?
Okay, so what we have kind of a little bit of both. What we have is an SDK that's being created for you, that we actually have a bulk import tool that has been created through the SDK to allow you to do that. Okay, it is not right from any one of these options here, but it's a great little tool that's available to anyone so that they can actually do a bulk import. Okay, and it gives them full instructions on how to do it and how it has to be lined up. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.